Okay, hi, and welcome to Thursday evening breathing buddies. It's good to see you. Today I am going to look at we're gonna look at air hunger, which is the feeling that you'd like to be breathing a little bit more air, which is something we kind of look at each week. And it's based on the way the approach I'm taking is based on a couple of questions I was sent, and so I'll be looking at it from a few angles. What we're going to do is we're going to practice creating a little bit of air hunger. Then we're going to step away from that, breathe slow and deep, then approach air hunger from a different angle, then breathing slow and deep, and then from a different angle again, breathing slow and deep. And we're going to do it like that because 20 minutes of just doing air hunger work can feel a bit stressful, and it's not something we really want to be doing in the evening. So I think what I'm going to do is what I do with some of the exercises is just roughly put within groups A or B. Group A is anybody who's in good health, perfectly fit and healthy. Group B, if you suffer with hypertension, heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, if you suffer with anxiety or panic disorder especially, or other serious mental health issues, if you've had recent surgery. Group B. Not just now. People in Group B can still do all these exercises. It's just if you start to do this and you start to feel anxious, or you start to feel your breathing becoming erratic, like you're not in control of it, just take a step back straight away. Don't push it. Just step away. Take some deep breaths, and then wait till you feel calm again, and decide whether or not you want to continue. Hopefully, we won't get to that, but you never know with air hunger. It can just suddenly it can grab you. Group A, you should be fine, but again, if you start, especially if you start to feel your breathing become erratic, you've probably gone a little bit too far. So just take a step back. Right, so there's a little bit of terminology that I might use. First is tidal volume. Tidal volume is the amount of air that you breathe in each breath, the volume of air with each inhalation. And then there's also minute volume, which is the amount of air that you breathe over the course of a minute. So those terms will probably come up at some point. So let's get into it. We're going to try and relax like we normally do. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, but at certain points you might need to open your eyes again just to have a look at what we're doing, because it will be a little bit different to if you've been before to the way we've approached air hunger in the past. So you can start with sitting up nice and straight. Ideally, with your back unsupported, so you're holding yourself up nice and tall. You can rest your hands on your lap, or we're going to be breathing deep, so maybe you might want to put a hand on your chest, another hand on your belly, just above your navel, just so you can feel the belly expanding. So to begin with, just check in. See how you're feeling right now. How are you breathing right now? Is the bottom hand moving more than the top hand? If you've got your hand on your belly, that is. That's what we're aiming for. If you've got a hand on your chest, ideally we're going to be aiming to have that barely move, if at all. What's your tidal volume at the moment? Don't expect you to know it in milliliters, but just to get a feel for how much air you're taking in with each breath at the moment. I'm not going to guide this. I'm not going to count or anything like that. Just like you, based on however you're breathing right now, to try and slow it down. Gradually slow it down. You might choose to keep the inhalation and exhalation of equal length, a 1-to-1 ratio. Or you might try to extend the exhalation. So slightly shorter, faster inhalation. A longer exhalation. I don't mean a fast inhalation as much as a shorter than the exhalation inhalation. Now as we slow the breathing down and take breaths deep into the belly, this stimulates the vagus nerve, switches on the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest. The vagus nerve sends biofeedback to the brain when it's stimulated to tell the brain that the body is in a safe state. And then the brain does great things like slows your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure a little bit, helps you to relax even more. So we're going to approach air hunger now for the first time. So I'd like to keep breathing at the rate that you have reached. You might have to change this as we go ahead with the practice, but to begin with, to get the feel for it, keep breathing at the same rate. Now, take your thumb or a finger, just cover the entrance to one nostril, have a little test, see what it's like to breathe through your left nostril, then the other one, see what it's like to breathe through the other side. You'll probably find, like most people, that one of them is more open than the other. This is normal. What I'd like you to do, we're going to do some unilateral breathing. So whichever nostril you're finding it easiest to breathe through, leave that one open and cover the one that's a little bit harder to breathe through. Now just breathe at the same rate you were before. See if this starts to feel any different, because what you've done is you've roughly halved the size of the hole that the air can get in. So this is a way of creating a little bit of air hunger. Slow the breathing down. Cover one nostril. If it starts to get too much, back away from it. You might try to slow the breathing down a little bit more if you feel comfortable. Just remember that air hunger is the feeling that you'd like to be breathing a little bit more air. Just a little bit. It shouldn't be a strong feeling, it shouldn't be an overwhelming feeling. It should be comfortable. Comfortable like sitting on a wooden chair rather than relaxing in a sofa. Okay, now breathe through both nostrils again. Just take a rest from that. You'll probably notice that feels a bit different. Now, without changing the rate of breathing, can you guess what I'm going to ask you to do next? So now, I'd like you to try and breathe through the more difficult nostril. Cover the good nostril. Now, this could be considerably more difficult, or not, depending on what's going on with your body right now. If this just feels impossible, switch back to the other nostril. If you have something like a deviated septum, it might feel nigh on impossible to continue like this. But if possible, stick with it for a little while. Does it feel different to have reduced the amount of space the air has to get in? If you feel comfortable doing this, slow the breathing down a little bit. Now, like taking off a tight shoe, drop that and breathe through both nostrils again. Good way just to learn how to appreciate what it feels like to have two holes to breathe through instead of just one. Okay, so that's one way that we can use to approach air hunger. So now I'd just like you to slip back into breathing slowly and deeply. Perhaps aiming now, putting the focus on extending your exhalation. So the reason we do this practice, or one of the reasons, to breathe a bit less air, to create some air hunger, is because the population, generally overbreathe. There's chronic hyperventilation, breathing beyond our metabolic needs in any given moment. When we breathe too fast, even if it's just a little bit too fast, partial pressure of carbon dioxide drops in the lungs and therefore it drops in the blood. In other words, the concentration of carbon dioxide is less in your blood, and over time the body adapts to that. The body can adapt in a myriad of directions depending on what you throw at it. It becomes less tolerant to the presence of carbon dioxide. That means when carbon dioxide does build up, or other things like lactic acid as well, you become breathless more easily. So by practicing breathing light, breathing less air, breathing a bit less air every day, you can reduce the onset and duration of breathlessness. And in the short term, carbon dioxide acts as a vasodilator. So the blood vessels open up, we get improved blood flow around the body to the tissues, the organs, the brain. So you might feel your hands warming up, you might feel your feet warming up, you might just generally feel like you're getting a bit warmer. You might feel a clarity in your mind. It's because also carbon dioxide acts as a catalyst for the release of oxygen from your red blood cells. Double whammy of goodness. Improved blood flow to the brain. Better oxygen supply to the brain. Okay, so let's try and create a bit of air hunger again, a different way. You might just want to open your eyes just for a second if they're closed. What I'd like you to do, take your hand and place it on your top lip. So you've got your index finger against your lip, so your thumb's not doing anything. Fingers together. Be a good idea now. Yeah, you can close your eyes again. I think it's good to go inwards with this one. Now as you're exhaling, you can probably, hopefully now, feel the air moving across all the fingers. So the goal with this one is to breathe ever more lightly so that you can't feel it on your fingers. And once you can't feel it on your little finger, drop your little finger away. Then, as you can't feel it on your ring finger, drop your ring finger away. And keep going until you get to one finger. And leave one finger if you can get there. If you get to one finger, then the challenge begins. Then how lightly can you breathe so you feel less and less air moving on that finger? This involves quite a bit of control of the breathing muscles. You might find that your tidal volume decreases dramatically doing this. You might have to breathe a tiny amount of air. If you take it to the extreme, you kind of get to the point where it feels like you're only really moving the air almost just in and out of your nose, the tiniest amount of air. Now be careful with this one, it can sometimes get a bit strong a bit quickly. If it does, just take some deeper breaths. Can you get to the point where even the small hairs inside your nose stop moving? So for me personally, when I'm doing this one, I end up moving to lots and lots of very tiny breaths. Alternatively, you can still be taking a longer breath. I just had a little go. Just really, really try to slow down. So a couple of different approaches to take. Okay, let's drop that one. Head back to breathing deep again. Take some deeper breaths deep into the belly. So the reason I ask you to be careful with these exercises, and we talk about anxiety, it can arise, and at extreme lengths panic can occur, and that's because we're playing around with one of our primal fears. We have three primal fears: fear of suffocation, fear of dehydration, fear of starvation. And obviously it's the suffocation that's the one that's easiest to arise and easiest to arise in your body. But it keeps us safe, and we can learn to kind of make friends with it whilst respecting it at the same time. But you have to respect it. That's why we don't like to push this too far. We always say to step back if you need to. Okay, so the final different method we're going to use now is to take your hands and to cup them over your face. You might need to have a look for this. So fairly tightly around your face. Now just breathe through your hands to begin with. This is a brilliant thing to know for if you ever have a panic attack, or if you're with someone who does. The first thing you ask them to do is to take a few very big deep breaths, because they're going to feel like they're suffocating. Then you ask them to do this, and this is a modified version of the brown paper bag, which has been debunked. but it's half right, the breathing into a brown paper bag, because what you're trying to do, people are hyperventilating when they have a panic attack. They breathe out too much carbon dioxide. By breathing into a bag, you're breathing out the carbon dioxide and re-inhaling it. However, if you breathe into a bag, you're starving yourself of oxygen as well. But if you breathe through your hands like this, you're still getting oxygen in. There's still air getting through your hands. So this just helps to increase the amount of carbon dioxide you're breathing in by cupping your hands over your face. Now, as you're doing this, can you make your breaths smaller and lighter? So if you're breathing like this before, can you make your breath smaller? If you find the air hunger, can you just ride that wave? Can you ride it without getting wiped out by the wave, but also without sitting behind it? And if it's not too much to ask, can you relax while you're doing it as well? Are you able to do that? Are you able to approach this discomfort, slight discomfort, and relax at the same time? Can you hold those two ideas physically? Okay, let's drop that. Back to breathing deep with our eyes closed. So again, based on how you're breathing right now, concentrate on slowing it down. Taking a breath deep into your belly. Try to extend the exhalation. And if you want to add something else to it, a little pause for a beat or two at the end of the exhalation. And that's the shape of the perfect breath at relaxation. An inhalation that's shorter than the exhalation, a longer exhalation, little pause at the end. Inhale, longer exhalation, little pause at the end. Now I'm going to approach air hunger from the angle I usually take it, which is just to say, very loosely, can you now breathe a little bit less air? Can you breathe perhaps 70% of the air that you were breathing? So you might think of that in terms of tidal volume. If it was a container that you were filling, can you fill it to the 70% mark without changing the rate of your breathing? And as you're doing that, can you feel relaxed at the same time? Can you drop any tension around the breathing muscles? Can you let the inhalation arise on its own? And let the air fall out naturally. Just breathing a little bit less air. Slowly, deeply. So now breathing light, breathing slow, and breathing deep, which is the crux of the oxygen advantage method, or one branch of it. Can you find a little bit of time each day to breathe like this? 5 minutes. Doesn't need to be 20 minutes like this. 5 minutes a couple of times a day. Improve your body's tolerance to carbon dioxide. Give your brain an oxygen boost. Improve blood flow around your body. And then a little bit more about yourself as well. It's a time to be inquisitive about what's going on inside. Okay, when you're ready, you can drop the exercise. Breathe normally. Open your eyes when you're ready. Thank you for joining this week.